'em up, lay it down just like Matt Amari. Wrestling RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party. Will I Ric Flair, Showing out like Bianca Belair, Best podcast, flush it in the air, Roman Reigns and we win it, don't care, No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt Amari. Wrestling RHAPUp's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Wrestling RHAPup podcast. I'm your host, Mari Forth, and with me, as always, my co-host, my tag team partner, Mr. Matt Scott. Matt, how's it going?
It's going pretty well, Mari. Happy to be here. Happy to kick things into full gear. Get it?
Ooh,
Get it? Because of the AEW connection. We're talking about full gear today. Get it?
I got you.
Yes, we love a dad joke.
An over-explained one as well.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Awesome. And I guess I should probably introduce our guest without any further ado. Let's just dive in. Let me get those vocal cords warmed up. Making her way to the podcast, hailing from Las Vegas, Nevada. She has a BA in journalism. I'm going through your whole LinkedIn profile.
Oh my God.
She has a BA in journalism and media studies. She's a wine connoisseur, and she's a wrestling wizard and knows that, in her words, bad bitches love wrestling. You can find her on the podcast platforms as the host of her own show, or you can reach her by phone at 1-800-Wardaddy. Let's wind up or wind down and toast to the new era of Wrestling Winedown with this week's guest, Whoa!
How are you guys? That was great.
That was awesome. I thought you were about to die.
I really thought you were too. I was like, whoa.
No, I actually didn't have the LinkedIn pulled up, but basically it feels like it.
Twitter hasn't gone down yet. Like, don't dox yourself.
Yeah, that's where you can find me, by the way, on LinkedIn if Twitter goes down.
Find a job.
Yep.
Low. Our acclaimed guest. We're so glad to have you back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like Matt said, the Wrestling Winedown has completely revamped. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit about your platform again, just in case they don't remember from earlier this year?
Yes, so Wrestling Winedown is a female-founded podcast that is dedicated to professional wrestling and wine. We've been around since 2019. We're based in Las Vegas, so we chat about wine education as well as professional wrestling. Some of the segments that we have are The Life of a Wrestling Fan, where we focus on people that have extraordinary careers who also happen to be wrestling fans, and then we have Chardonnay and Cheesemay, which I'm joined by the Rest Friends, Iridian Fiero, for those episodes. And then we have interviews here and there with people inside as well as outside of the ring.
Oh my God, I love it.
Everything we love.
Yes,
wrestling, wine, we know there's merch, interviews with people, women, all of it. So thanks for gracing us. We love all the things. And actually just in honor of you, I have my water with me in a wine glass today. This is water, just so you know. There's no alcohol in this.
And I have my Wine Down shirt that shouts out the beautiful Black women in wrestling. So we are here. We're prepared, and we're just so happy to have you. Like we said, we love gushing over Low every time she's here.
We do.
we make her as uncomfortable as possible with the praise.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. Awesome. And and by the way, I just love, you mentioned your Life of Wrestling fan series, but just a big shout out to you. I love to do interviews with people about things, but I love what you're doing just in terms of like interviewing wrestling fans about their lives, because a lot of people just have this idea of wrestling fans in their heads that I mean doesn't include most of us, but if it does, it is just like not us at all. So I just love that you're bringing out the different sides of people, and so really just want to double encourage people to check that out.
Thank you.
Yes. Awesome. All right, let's jump into some news before we get into a full gear predictions. I mean, we're saying we try to hold it back a little bit, but when your fave keeps breaking the internet, we got to talk about her. It's not my fault. She is the conversation. Sasha Banks filed some trademarks this week that kind of sent wrestling Twitter into a tailspin. So Sasha Banks, she trademarked first her company called Solnado, which seems like a play on her last name, like Renato. So Solnado Inc. And then it recently filed trademarks for Mercedes Monet, which is like a MONE apostrophe type situation. Monet Talks, Bank Monet, and the Statement Maker. So a lot of people are thinking, like, are these possible new wrestling names? Is Sasha leaving WWE? What are these trademarks she's filing for? People got scared. People got interested. Other people just think it's for her CBD company. What do we think here? Lo, what do you think about these trademarks?
It could be wrestling related. I mean, Monet, and we know that she, is legit boss. Like, I feel like it would kind of go along with that. And Sasha Banks, Bank Money, or Monet. So, I could see her trademarking. I know we've kind of been, trying to figure out where she's at. Is she staying in WWE? We see her doing like a lot of extracurricular stuff. So we really don't know like what exactly is going on. But also she could be throwing us for a loop. She could be just trademarking these names for merch or for CBD or, something along the lines of that. So I really don't know. I like the Monet. I know I saw a lot of people that were like, that's the best she could come up with, but I think it's cute. I like it. I think it works. It's not money. It's Monet. It adds a little sass to it. So I like it.
I like it too. I wish it had the T on it. Like, as a Monet Exchange fan, my favorite drag queen in the world, I wish it had like the full like T with the apostrophe E, but it's probably.
I'm wondering if she didn't do that because of Frankie Monet that was in the WWE before, or Taya Valkyrie, and she kind of was like, no, that's already been done.
Yeah. Either way, I agree. It's not too bad. Matt, what do you think?
I mean, we speculate about Mercedes at like she just comes up everywhere. Like, you can't have a conversation about wrestling and what's going to happen without bringing her up. And so, I mean, I'm on board. I'm just glad that she's getting her legal paperwork in order. Like, I think that we should, at some point, maybe, Mari, we need to have a few podcasting lawyers on just to talk with them.
We know a few.
We do know a lot. Probably more than we know an odd amount of lawyers who podcast, but and we could ask them about this. But one thing I would say, it's funny, like, this is the one legal thing that maybe I could contribute, is that if you do have a trademark, you do need to, or at least the trademark office, the USPTO, which might be the Patent and Trademark Office, like, they need you to use your trademark, or they want you to use it, or else you could lose it. So, I mean, I believe that she's planning on using them. It's just a question of for what. But I mean, honestly, I don't care. I just want her to be happy. I want to see her when she's ready. I don't want everyone's always trying to rush her back. Like, is she going to be on Raw? Is she going to be on AEW Full Gear? Is she going to be on, like, it's like, let's just let her be happy. And whenever she comes back, or if she ever comes back, or if she never comes back and just decides to be the queen of CBD, then, I guess we'll have to be okay. We'll cry a little bit, but we'll be okay.
If you ask me, these reek of CBD trademarks to me. Like, this sounds like some good strains to me.
Wait,
personally.
Can you read them again?
Like,
good strains of CBD.
Yes, Mercedes Monet Talks, Bank Monet, and the Statement Maker. Like, the Statement Maker actually does sound like a finisher, though.
Yeah,
that sounds like a finisher. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised. Solnado, I don't know too many like people who partake, but that sounds like something they would say. Like,
Well, you
I
gotta
don't
get your
know.
CBD, and you know what? Is her CBD out now? Could we like buy it or something? I need to purchase.
She's the face of like
Of one
some like
brand, yeah.
yeah, one brand.
I've
Yeah, like
seen
she
that.
sponsors it. Yeah. So yeah, if she like branched out and started her own, I mean, on the ballot, a lot of states passed like legal marijuana on
Yeah.
on this past election. So I mean, maybe that's what I'm just hoping, because I still want to see Sasha Banks. Sasha
Of
Banks
course.
back in WWE,
Of
but
course.
I
Oh.
respect anything that Mercedes Varnado does, and Lord
Exactly.
knows whatever she does, I'll be there no matter what, with bells on. So
Yeah, it feels a little bit like a Beyonce, like when are the homecoming or not homecoming?
Yeah.
Wow, when are the Renaissance dates dropping?
Right.
I was transformed back in time to like, oh my god,
all of it.
But
Mhm.
no, it's like we're ready. Hopefully
are.
we don't need to save up that much money for her.
money is
You know,
saved.
it's not like we have to buy like $5,000 tour tickets. So you know, but I'll put
Not that
aside
much money.
$250 for
Oh, that's not enough.
Mercedes. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. I'm like,
No.
that's about it. That's gonna be what's gonna be.
But
I'll take donations. Send them through. Venmo me.
All right, we have a jam-packed match card to get into. So that's it for the news. Remember, if you want to send us an email, you can send emails to wrestling@RHAPhasawebsite.com. Send us your long form questions there. You can follow us on Twitter? Question mark at Wrestling RHAPup on Twitter. Also use hashtag Wrestling RHAPup. Join the conversation. That's at Wrestling RHAPUP. Of course, anytime now is a great time to join the Rob Has a Podcast Patreon group. So you can go to www.patreon.com/RHAP to become an RHAP patron. This is an amazing time. You get exclusive content, like different podcasts. If you love Survivor, if you love reality TV, if you love the RHAP network, become a patron today. Also, you can catch us on the Job Has a Squadcast official Facebook group for the Wrestling RHAPup podcast. If you want to join, just send us a DM. We will send you an invite. It's where we source all of our questions. Shout out to everybody in the Job Has a Squadcast Facebook group. We love you guys. Thank you for the support. Please, if you haven't already, go subscribe by going to robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed. Please subscribe. Then send your ratings, send your reviews. 5 stars only. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. 5 stars only, please, and thank you. All right, let's take the quickest of breaks and we'll get into this Full Gear preview. All right, the highlights of the week, jam-packed Full Gear preview. By the time this drops, more than likely the show will be on and or happening. So more of a predictions just are what we think is going to happen than like a preview. You can watch it and then come back and tell us how wrong we are. I'm fine with that. As always, the highlights of the week are in a very handy dandy playlist, either in your show notes or your show descriptions, either on the YouTube or wherever you're listening to your podcast. Hopefully you are looking at our pretty beautiful faces and Lowe's awesome setup on the YouTube page by going to Rob Has a Podcast YouTube page, searching Wrestling RHAPup, and you'll see all the pictures, you'll see all the coolness. Yay, go watch us. Go watch us.
And by the way, Mari, you just really set people up to drag us if we're wrong. We're just, look, the way that I look at this is that this is a good excuse for us to like really focus on AEW. And I know a lot of people, there's just so much wrestling out there. So like, I'm not planning on watching the pay-per-view live in real time. Mari, live in real time. Because it's late. This will be a 5-hour commitment. I need to like wake up in the morning at maybe like 6 or 7 a.m. and start just to like really get ahead of it. But I say this to say that if you're someone who's like not big on AEW, this is why our AEW shows are good. It's like catch up and then watch rather than just kind of give like the predictions without any context. So
we will be, of course, giving context like we always do. But I'm just saying, this is not ahead of time. You will not.
No, it definitely is not. It will probably
real. And it's the thing with like having to kind of adjust to like both companies going to like Saturday premium live events or pay-per-views, like, and then doing it randomly, because WWE still does some of their PLEs on Sunday and some on Saturday. So I mean, even Moxley here kept saying Sunday in some of his promos. It's so hard, it's so weird to break out of that thought process of like it's on Sunday, because I like Saturday pay-per-views. Like I like them, but then sometimes I'm like, I want to be out. So then I can't see them. So I have to wait, but I like the Sunday pay-per-views, because normally my ass is in the house on Sundays, but then I don't want to be up till like 1 a.m. watching wrestling. So it's always a catch-22,
Yeah. I'll also just throw in there really quickly too, if people are listening and want us to do, because for WWE, for the premium live events, we give it the Wednesday, usually Wednesday predictions treatment. So if folks do want more of that for AEW for these big shows, let us know, and we're accommodating. We'll hook you up. We like to give you the skinny on things early, so we'll do that.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why this is a great time to do this, not only is because it is Full Gear this week, like today, but we will be coming back with a Survivor Series preview on this Wednesday. So there's no point in talking about WWE twice in 4 days. Like,
that's
just
right.
doesn't make sense, because Survivor Series is this coming up week. So just not even a quick programming note, a very unfortunately long programming note here.
It's cool. It's fine. We let the people know up front. Then we can get into the fun stuff.
Yes. So let's start with the AEW World Championship match. The current champion, Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose for everybody who's unknown, versus MJF. They're running it back, because didn't they go for the championship in 2020 for MJF versus Jon Moxley? Like, this has been a pretty good build to me. Like, MJF, like, I know we try not, face heels, whatever. It doesn't have to be so binary, sure, whatever. But this is like definitely a face turn for MJF. For me, and the build to this has been very interesting, just because they are building it like two faces, because we have the introduction here of the firm, and sometimes I can take or leave it, like two-face matches, because it's always like, oh, we're facing each other, but then there's some outside thing that we have to face together so that people don't hate us, but I actually think it kind of works here. Lo, what do you think?
I think by the week MJF changes, because there's still stuff that he says, and I'm like, that's not very face of you. So I feel like, and it almost reminds me of how they were doing Punk for a while. Like, Punk seemed very like wishy-washy. Like, one day he was a heel, the next day he was a face. So I think they're pulling the same thing with MJF, since I don't think CM Punk is coming back to AEW. I think they want someone in the same position that he was in, or like a similar character, right? It is interesting that they did choose MJF to do it, because MJF has been this huge heel for years now, and that's him. That's his character. People know him by that. But I don't really get the firm. Like, I feel as though, they gathered all these guys, and I think they're all very talented, but it just, what was the point of it, right? Like, they came out at them too. They came out at All Out, and now they're pretty much wrapping it up at Full Gear. And, the Guns have their thing going on. Ethan Page has his thing going on. We just saw Lee facing off against Hook. So it's like, okay, there is some progression. And then you have William Morrissey, and it's like, okay, he's just the, the big guy of the group. But what's next for these individuals? Like, they were in this group setting with MJF, which I thought it would have lasted way longer than it did, but
they've already turned on him.
Gone.
And I mean, for me, it's just like Stokely. Like, he's the one who's really just been like, put him with anybody, and I believe in them. Hit that dick riding promo still is hilarious to me to this day. So funny. So that's a great question, Lo. It's kind of like, what do we put all of these people here together for? Hopefully they find a way to kind of like just go their separate ways, if that's what's gonna happen. Is Stokely still not, like, he hasn't appeared with Jade for a while, so I don't know. Matt, what do you think about Moxley versus MJF. I know last week with Solomon we talked about, do we really need the use of face versus heels, like set binary face versus heels? It doesn't seem like we're getting that with this feud. Are you enjoying that aspect of it?
Well, MJF is great. Like, I love MJF for what he's bringing, because this man just like really leans into being like the bad guy and saying the thing that like I think that a lot of people might think sometimes, or saying a lot of things that like are so clever that people don't even think about. And so he brings a different element where I wouldn't even categorize, like when he was I think he's still kind of like the same type of character. So I won't say when he was more of a heel, because I feel like he's still there. He's just in that tweener mode maybe. But the thing that I like about him is that it is different, and he is able to keep things kind of fresh along the way. And one of the things that works really well for MJF is having people to bounce off of. So whether it's like the Firm, whether it's William Regal, he always is able to interact with people really well, and I appreciate that about him. I don't know if I love the feud as much, because I just feel like, it is what it is. I don't know if we would have gotten this same feud if not for everything that happened at All Out, with just like the different suspensions and everything. Who knows? Maybe we would have. But I think that the big thing for me with this is just that, like, I am ready for MJF to be crowned as champion in this spot and be like the head of the company, essentially, or the head of the table for AEW, because he is like the homegrown talent. And I think that, with AEW, they struggle sometimes with like, do we push this person who is well established from outside, or do we invest in our homegrown talent? We have heard in the past like grumblings about certain people wishing that they focus more on the homegrown talent, and I just love that MJF is like the prime example, one of the prime examples of a homegrown talent, but probably like the prime example of a homegrown talent, if I could, just off the top of my head.
Yeah, and this storyline is very interesting because, like Lo said, the Firm helped MJF get the little chip thing, like basically the Money in the Bank at All Out. And then, Regal and Moxley are basically like, you haven't earned anything in your whole entire life. Everything was given to you. And so MJF does a babyface thing by announcing his cash in. He's like, I'm going to cash in at Full Gear. I want you at 100%. Like, that is a full babyface promo. Like, literally, that's what it is. Even though, he still has that attitude and that edge. We talk about it all the time. And the debate about when you get that opportunity where you can cash in at any time, should you be an opportunist or should you announce it? And how heels normally are the opportunists, and faces normally are the ones who announce beforehand. So, and this storyline of him wanting to earn it, wanting to prove himself, like kind of helping Moxley, but not helping Moxley, like the inner turmoil of like, do I be a good guy or do I don't? Like, I like it. I actually like the feud. And I agree with Matt. I think they need to pull the trigger. They need to put the championship on him. Moxley looks so tired. Like, he wasn't supposed to be here. Like, he was supposed to be resting before the Punkit stuff happened. So just take the belt off Mox, let him go chill with his baby. How old is his baby? Like maybe a year old now or something like that. I don't know. Maybe. Just go rest, man. Like, he's been holding this company like on his back for like a long time. Like, one of the people to hold the company up. So let Mox take a vacation, please. Yeah. And in the meantime, crown MJF, start a new era of AEW. Like, I'm ready for it. Like, I'm so ready for it. Lo, who you think's gonna win?
I think it makes the most sense to have MJF win here. I think with the title eliminator match that they're having, it's looking like Ricky Starks is probably going to end up winning that. So I would more like to see MJF versus Ricky rather than Jon Moxley versus Ricky. You never know. Ethan Page might win it, which would be interesting because Ethan Page was in the Firm. So that might be an interesting match as well. I mean, either way, if either of them win, I think it makes more sense to put them in a match against MJF. I think there's more storytelling there.
I agree. And I say this every time we talk about it, but I love how AEW sets up the next contender while they're like doing a big title match. I love when they do the eliminator tournaments at the same pay-per-views, because it's a comfort, and you know what's going to happen, and you're already like booking in your head what's going to happen, as opposed to like, okay, so where are we going to shift next, because we haven't how the other company doesn't decide in advance like what's going to happen next. So yeah, that's a great point, Lowe's. So I think we're all on the train here, that they put it on them, put that thing on them.
Yeah,
Give
and
MJF the championship.
yeah, and I think the other thing with it is, like, Mari, you mentioned something. I don't want to even misconstrue your words, but almost like the good guy aspect of MJF a little bit. And I feel like
Just the
MJF will,
storyline.
yeah, the storyline. Like,
Mhm.
MJF will never be a good guy, but I think that it
Right.
does show the dimensions to the character that, Mox and Regal called him out and were like, look, you've done nothing, essentially, is what they were saying. Or like,
Mhm.
you can't hold a candle to what we're bringing. You aren't the devil. Like, we've confronted the devil. We've seen the devil, is what they're talking about. And I think it kind of puts MJF in this interesting situation, which is like, do I play into what they're saying and prove them right? Or am I going to be like the stubborn person who's like, they're telling me I'm one thing, let me like prove that I'm so much more. And so there's a lot of complexity with this, but
Yeah.
I really love even just the history that Mox and Regal have, and then also the fact that William Regal and MJF are both like brass knuckles people. I am very curious about this match from the perspective of how it will go down. Like, will we see William Regal turn on Jon Moxley and side with MJF?
Interesting.
I would be really into that if that happened. I feel like I could see that happening, especially if Moxley is out on vacation or rest or whatever we want to call it. But yeah, that's what's on my mind. Is like, how do they do it? Because
Interesting.
anything could happen. Except we do know, by the way, that like Jon Moxley will bleed. He will. I would bet a lot of money, or maybe not a lot of money. I would bet all of my money on that, though.
That's funny. Yeah, I also could definitely just see a clean finish, because I mean that's what MJF said. He says he wants to prove that he can beat him clean in the ring. So we'll see. We shall see. Let's move on to, I think, what is probably one of the like second biggest matches on the card in my thought. The Acclaimed, the AEW Tag Team Champions versus Swerve in Our Glory. I think this is like very anticipated, because I think the Acclaimed are gonna just cement their run as champions. I mean, this is technically like this is their third match straight with Swerve in Their Glory. They lost the first one. They won the championships at the second one, and then this is like the third one that it's like it's just a rubber match basically. But it's always fun when these two teams like fight, and then on the added layer of this possible Swerve in Our Glory like breakup, like I'm so confused day by day. Like, I could have sworn a few months ago we were like, "Oh my god, it's Swerve and they're going to break up." Oh, nope, they're the champions now. And then it's like it's been such a great like slow burn, and then like Swerve slowly getting like more and more evil, while Keith Lee is kind of just like, "What is happening right now?" Like, so all that being said, like, and then the Acclaim just trying to be goofy, and Daddy Ass getting his fingers broken, and all of that. For me, I think the Acclaimed is going to win here, and I think the next big step is like, does Swerve in Our Glory like break up at the event, or is it later down the line? Like, is it the repercussion of what happens later? Am I totally off base here, Lo, or what do you think?
I am not into this at all.
Oh,
Like,
no.
I'm not. Like, when we watched it in Chicago, I was very surprised to see how the crowd was. Like, I didn't realize the Acclaim was that over.
That big,
Like, no one
yes.
was cheering for Swerve in Our Glory.
Yes.
I am looking more forward to Swerve and Keith just dissolving. and
Right.
starting a feud. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yes.
I know people are really into, the Scissor Me daddy ass and stuff like that, which is fine. I think it adds, some comedy into the wrestling, but
Right.
I don't jive with it like that. Like, I think they're both really talented teams, but it's not something that I would go out of my way to watch, right? So like if it's on, I'll probably watch it, but I'm not going to go out and like seek it to watch it. But I do think the Acclaimed is going to win, and I think that they are not going to wait to have Swerve turn against Keith Lee. But you never know, Keith might turn against Swerve. He might be tired of him, playing games in the background, but I think they can have an incredible feud. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. Is like, stop messing with the Acclaimed, go do your own thing. I think they need to bring a new tag team in. Like you said, we've seen this match 3 times already.
We have. Yes, we have.
What's next? Are we bringing in the Gun Club? Are we having FTR go for those titles? Like, what are we doing next here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with like the idea that we definitely need to move on to what's next with them. But for me, it's a little bit more of a question of what that is, just because I mean, I really thought that we would see Swerve turning on Keith Lee, and I think I've kind of been surprised that they're still together at this point, just because what was it at AEW Grand Slam back in September? I was there, and we actually covered AEW right after that and covered the show, and I remember thinking like, okay, so Swerve's a heel now, or is like moving to the heel end of things. He's clearly frustrated, and as you mentioned, Mari, he's kind of devolved into his evil side, and just kind of losing it. And I get that like the Scissor Me daddy ass thing is very over with the crowd. Like I feel like
the crowd.
but I feel like it's very much like my comparison to WWE would be like the Usi stuff, like things feeling really Usi. Like people just have fun saying it, and they're into that. But I also see an appreciation for the Acclaim that goes with it, which is good. My only thing is, I don't know if they're gonna break up Swerve and Keith Lee. Like, I could see them actually turning Keith Lee heel too and having them gain the championships back here. Just because it seems so predictable that they'll go to a Swerve versus Keith Lee thing. At this point, I just don't see it. And I also wonder, and I haven't thought about this, but like, does AEW need more heel tag teams? I think that Swerve and Our Glory could be like a really solid heel tag team. Just because they're not as loved as the Acclaimed, as we've mentioned. So that's what I think. Like, I see them winning here and turning heel at the same time.
Interesting.
Like, fully heel.
Yeah. Very interesting. I agree with Lo. Like we say here, like wrestling, not all wrestling is for everybody.
That's true.
You could go back to the episode that Matt just talked about, and I was not feeling this as me daddy. We had our 2 guests were, I loved it. But I do think that the Acclaimed, like for me, all of that aside, I really love Anthony Bowen and like what he's doing. And so I am rooting for them. I'm rooting for him more than anything. And I think they've just gotten the belt. So like Lo said, I'm not really here for like the match against Swerve and Our Glory, because I think it should be a foregone conclusion that the Acclaimed wins here. I think I want to know what happens with Swerve and Keith. And as much it might be obvious that they might break up and turn, I would love to see if Keith kind of turns on Swerve, because he's like, dude, like trying to bring him back. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to bring him back from the dark side. Like what's happening? Like this isn't you type of deal, type of vibe. So I think they should break up. I think those are 2 incredible like singles competitors that have been shunted into the tag team division. They've been there for months now. They've gotten the belts. They've defended. They've faced a lot of good teams. There's no point for them to stay together anymore, I don't think, for me personally. So I would love if they would resolve this. They would break up. And I think the Acclaim, like we said, goes on to somebody else. FTR would be great, because they're kind of, we're building like a secondary feud with FTR, because FTR we're in the running to become the number 1 contenders. but then the Gun Club kept them from winning. So
Yeah.
I agree. I just kind of want to move away from this feud. Like with most tag team wrestling right now, is like, can we get away from this feud? Like, so
Yeah, I think that's like, and everything you said is so solid too. Like that would
it's
that
just
would work
logical.
out. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I think the only thing that I wonder about is what's the next feud, and I kind of worry actually because of how over the Acclaimed are. I worry about another face team on the other end of
Oh,
them
that's
as
true.
champions versus like having Swerve and Our Glory with the championships. Then you could easily have FTR competing for those championships, or you could have any face team that's really going for that. So I worry a little bit about like the Scissor Me Daddy thing being so over, just because it could like distract and take heat away from some teams that should be getting over. Like I don't see any other teams truly getting over unless they're heels, like against the Acclaimed.
Hmm.
So that's my one thing there. But I mean,
Gotcha.
stay tuned. I know it's like
Mhm.
bizarre that like Billy Gunn is in wrestling in 2022. First of all, that he's actually wrestling. Like there was that
Yeah.
the match with Swerve that we saw in the build to that. So it's just like overwhelming, and I don't know what to. I can't believe that this is what we're getting in 2022. But I love that. I love the unpredictability of it.
Yeah,
And
that was definitely a very like interesting match. Like interesting in the way that like he went, like he was like
Mhm.
still going. I'm like, you are still wrestling here.
He
Like,
looks
I think
great.
he
he
trains
looked
his
great. Yeah.
son, so I think that's
Yes,
why. Yeah.
that
I
makes
wouldn't be
sense.
surprised.
I
Yeah.
was I was like, he is getting it. Like, you love to see it, honestly. Um
Yeah. I'm not going to make any jokes about his old
Please
age.
don't. Yes. All right. I love that we're moving through these. Like truly, truly. So I don't know. I don't know here. I wish maybe we should have asked Solomon when we had him on last. But
Oh.
so we have the Toni Storm as the champion versus Jamie Hayter for the interim AEW Women's Championship. Toni Storm kind of made a little bit of waves this week where she was asked about Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa is currently injured from what we understand, and she is of course the AEW Women's Champion. Toni Storm was asked like, I guess like, what do you think about Thunder Rosa, possibly being out for longer than anticipated? And Toni Storm was like, well, if she can't defend her title, then I should be the regular, AEW Women's Championship match. So some people, there is a debate. But other than that, why should I care about this match? Lo, any answers?
Oh my gosh.
Honestly,
I I
it's
like
sad.
Jamie Hayter. I think she could
Yeah.
be a good women's champion, and I
Mhm.
think it's about time that they kind of have Britt do her own thing on the side while Jamie
Mhm.
gets her shine, because people have been wanting that for a while, and I think she's really over with the fans. But we don't have a timetable for Thunder Rosa, and I think that's really interesting because usually with injuries we have a timetable.
Hmm.
Mm.
I'm almost wondering if they aren't putting the timetable out because she might return.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
Um, I forgot what I think she
Yeah.
had like a leg injury or something, but
Yeah.
usually they'll let you know. It's like 6 to 8 months or 40,
Yeah.
weeks or however long. And I know she was on something recently where she says she's not ready to come back, but we
Mhm.
haven't received any updates. That's the weird thing. Like usually we'll see, like for instance, Chris Statlander. We know she got surgery. We know she's doing well. We don't know
Mhm.
anything about Thunder Rose. And it could be because of, the backstage politics that was happening with her and Britt. They've kept everything hush hush so that people aren't gossiping. But
Mhm.
at the same time, it's just very odd how little we know. When usually it seems like we know everything. It seems like we're there with the person. So I
True.
don't know.
That's
But
a great
also at the
point.
same time too, I could see them keeping the title on Tony until Thunder comes back. So
Mhm.
because I feel like it would be a good feud at that point because Tony's talking shit,
Mhm.
Thunder Rosa would come for her vengeance. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I really do think that Jamie Hayter should be champ at this point. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's what Solomon said. So maybe I don't. For me, I guess it's because I'm not keeping up with the product like week to week. Because I still kind of just see Jamie as second fiddle to Britt. Like maybe I'm missing something here. Matt, what do you think about Toni and Jamie?
Yeah, it's hard because out of the three, I mean, you know what? I'll also say, because I hate when people do this, like, I don't think it's fair to just compare the women's matches with the other women's matches, which is like the tendency that people have, or the women's feuds with other women's feuds. But like, this is the match that I'm kind of least excited about. And I think it's just because this interim championship thing, I love the interim championship dynamic in AEW. I think it's nice, except when you don't know when someone's going to be back. And so you have someone who's the champion who might be out for like, I mean, who knows how long, right? And, you know, so it's interesting, but I want to give Jamie Hayter the benefit of the doubt, because everything I hear from like other fans about her is really solid. Like, people love Jamie Hayter, and apparently like she's really over. I just don't think I fully get it, but maybe because and I don't even think it's about like tuning in. I just want more of like the character as an individual built out. But in terms of this match, so here's my thing. Toni Storm is the interim champion. It would be great to have Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa against each other, champion versus interim champion. That totally makes sense, obviously. So that's kind of why I'd want to give Toni Storm like the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, she's going to retain. But I could also see a world where Jamie Hayter wins here, brings in that heel energy, takes over the championship, and then we have her, you know, alongside Britt Baker, in association with Britt Baker, maybe even against Saraya. And we'll talk about that as we go along. By just looking at it, like, I know Saraya, I believe, is 30 now. Jamie Hayter's 27 or so. And just to see these two women from England like going head to head, even like, it visually, Jamie Hayter gives me a little bit of those like earlier Paige vibes in terms of her look. And so it's like, just that, I wonder if there's some interest from AEW in terms of putting them against each other at some point. I don't know.
I see it happening when they go to the UK. I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Okay. Yeah. I feel
like it's a whole year before that.
Yeah. But I think, it's interesting to think about. So that's one thing where I'm like, I wonder when it will be Jamie Hayter's time. And I could see that happening now, but the interim championship thing messes it up, because it's just like Toni Storm is not like the full-fledged champ right now, or doesn't feel like it, because of that word interim.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, because it's like, I feel like every time I hear Jamie Hayter's name, it's always like her name is big enough. She's a big enough draw to get that big match, but then she's always falling short. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like she's always falling short, either to Britt, to Thunder Rosa, like, you know, to Jade. Like, it just feels like she's always, I don't think she fought Jade, but it like, it always just feels like she's like falling short, you know? And there's only so much people can handle until it like becomes like until you just don't even get your hopes up anymore, type of thing. So storyline wise, it feels like Toni taking shots at Thunder Rosa would mean that she should keep it until Thunder Rosa comes back. So, but if it's true that we actually have no timetable on Thunder Rosa coming back, that can be problematic. But if, like Lo points out, that maybe they're keeping it from us so that Thunder Rosa makes a triumphant return, then, you know, that all of this would make more sense and be more logical, because maybe she shows up to, you know, get in Toni's face. So either way, it feels to me that each scenario goes above the head of Jamie Hayter, unfortunately, you know? So as much as a lot of people want her to win, just from you know, for me, because when I don't have any emotional ties to the people fighting, I just try and think from a logical booking perspective. And just from a logical booking perspective, it seems like you keep the belt on Toni and just further sow the seeds of like her versus Thunder Rosa, which, I mean, it should be interesting because they were teaming together kind of before her injury happened. So Thunderstorm. So unfortunately, I think that's where it goes. And maybe I just said I miss it. I don't see enough with Jamie, and like Matt said, maybe it's because I'm the type of person who loves over the top characters, so that could be why, but no matter what, I think it's gonna be a great match.
Yeah. So I'll just officially say my prediction is for Jamie Hayter, just because it's
Okay.
different. It's different. Like I would be curious to see what they do with that, but I'm with you logically on the Tony Storm thing. But we'll see. I mean, I like when Tony Khan switches it up a little bit for us. Like let's mix it up.
Yeah, I'm officially just gonna go with Tony Storm here. Personally, Lo, who you got?
Either way, I don't have a preference.
Yeah, fair enough. That's what it's about.
I know, and it's kind of been weird too, because like when I was like pulling clips, like it's kind of it like Matt said, it's intertwined with the Paige and Britt Baker stuff, so it's kind of like, I don't know. It feels hard to kind of separate the two, but we're going to try, because we're going to talk about that much later.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the ROH World Championship match. We have the current champion is the Ocho, Chris Jericho, versus Bryan Danielson versus Sami Guevara versus Claudio Castagnoli, a fatal 4-way. We were talking about this before the podcast starts. How did we get here? How did we get to a fatal 4-way for the ROH World Championship?
Well, yeah, I'll just jump in. So,
Sure.
I feel like you're about to call on me anyway. But no, I mean, so I think back to AEW Grand Slam in September when Chris Jericho won the ROH Championship from Claudio, and he kind of has had this very clear idea of like, I'm eviscerating. I love that word. Great vocabulary. But eviscerating like every ROH champion and everybody who has anything to do with ROH. And so the thing I think that's interesting about this feud, at least for me, is that it's been a lot of like wrestling and competition and people like fighting and brawling with each other. So there was even a brawl between the 4 competitors at one point, and we've seen some matches with Danielson and Guevara, and it's and also we saw like a Colt Cabana Chris Jericho match, some like Dalton Castle Chris Jericho match, a lot of stuff like that. So yeah, lots of wrestling, which is very ROH, and I appreciate that.
It's been very interesting because Jericho basically says he wants to like, we covered it. I know, I remember we talked about it a little bit, but like, so he became the ROH champion, but he's calling himself like the ultimate sports entertainer. He wants to like just completely be the opposite of what the ROH championship stands for, basically fighting champions, pure wrestling, all that good stuff, and in a way, it's kind of funny because he's saying he wants to do like the opposite, but he's kind of doing it like the way it should be, because he's like offering like open challenges to like former ROH champions. So we're getting people like Colt Cabana that we haven't seen on TV for a while, and freaking Dalton Castle as well, and he's wrestling them basically in open challenges. And it's what that title's for. It's kind of funny. I love that kind of layered nuance that he's saying he's against everything the title is for, and yet upholding the title in a very slick way. And I thought it was so cool. What do you think? I don't think we've ever talked about Dalton Castle on this podcast, because he's been off and on with the wrestling. I don't think I've ever asked you, Matt. How do you feel about Dalton Castle and the boys?
I actually don't have feelings about Dalton Castle. But I feel like I should. So I'm like, I like the flair. I like the finesse. There's a movie that I didn't see that I'm thinking of that I think was like a figure skating movie at some point, maybe with like Ben Stiller or
thinking of Blades of Glory.
Yes, like he's giving that. So I like that about him. I need to know more about him, because I've always heard his name and I just don't know much of anything other than that he was ROH champion back in 2017, and that was all. That's basically all I know about Dalton Castle, other than he brings the flair, he brings the sports and entertainment. So I feel like I would love him, Mari. I feel like we would love talking about him a lot more if we had more opportunities to.
Lo, how about you? What do you think
Like
about
maybe
I don't know enough about him to have an opinion. Honestly,
but the rest of the match, the fatal 4-way for the ROH Championship.
Anyone other than Sammy Guevara at this point.
That part.
I'm tired of seeing him stick his tongue out. Like, we get it. We get it. I think I am interested in seeing if we do see any type of Danielson and Claudio interaction here, because like you guys mentioned when we were talking about MJF and Moxley, there is a chance that Regal could turn on Moxley and go with MJF.
Yeah.
So where does that leave the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club? So I'm almost wondering if they're gonna just dissolve, which I don't think that's the best at this point. I think they're one of the biggest groups in AEW, so that wouldn't really make that much sense to me. But you could definitely have some heat in there, some conflict, maybe bring that in. But yeah, I think anyone other than Sammy Guevara, and I wouldn't be opposed to them taking the title off of Chris Jericho. I mean, I know he's brought in former Ring of Honor talents to face off against, like you guys mentioned with Cole Cabana and Dalton Castle, but Danielson as well as Claudio have a history in Ring of Honor,
right?
And that might be something more interesting to watch at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would especially say like Danielson is interesting here as someone else who could have the championship and be as well known and renowned, just because we did have Jericho winning the championship from Claudio, which is
right.
So we did just kind of see that. I mean, I like the idea of Chris Jericho. I kind of like the idea of Chris Jericho keeping the championship at least until they. Like, I know that ROH Final Battle is a thing. I'm assuming they're still doing it this year. And so it makes sense that he would be on that card. I don't know if he needs to be the champion on that card. Yeah, I don't know. I have like weird feelings about Chris Jericho with this ROH title, because I think it's great bringing like eyes to what they're doing and bringing in some of the people that we've talked about, as you've mentioned. But I mean, it's like, it's very clear why he's champ here, just like it's clear why he was champ for AEW, and he does a solid job, but like Tony Khan goes to him to help build the prestige of championships, and it's like, let's maybe, I don't know, like let's switch it up a little bit, just a little, just a wee bit, give us something a little different.
Yeah, I liked Lowe's thought about like the Blackpool Combat Club. Like, I would not want them to break up, because they are one of the like few factions in AEW that feel like a faction, but also feel like individuals. Like, I like when a faction does truly feel like each person can win. Each person is like on par, on the level, and not just like the putty men, like not just henchmen, to be like disposed of. So you can always tease some tension, but then you can always just like leave them be and let them go on their way and try and capture more gold. It is hard. Like I too hope it's not Sami. Bryan Danielson as the ROH champion would be great. I would love. I think he would love it. I think him and Sami with that 2 out of 3 falls match, that pure wrestling style, is exactly kind of what ROH needs, even though they already have a pure champion too, Daniel Garcia. But like that would be a great decision. Like Matt said, keeping it on Chris Jericho. Maybe having Jericho lose at the next ROH pay-per-view might be a good shout as well, instead of like it changing hands on an AEW pay-per-view technically. But I feel like if I don't pick somebody other than Chris Jericho, I feel like I've said all the champions should win. So
yeah. So I mean, I'll just say, even before like getting to our predictions, I love that this is a story, just because where were we with, I mean, well, I won't say a year ago, because that was, I believe, when Tony Khan was just buying ROH and things were kind of just melding, just starting to, well, really earlier this year, they just started to come together. So I just like the story a lot. And I also was thinking back and looking back, like, what's how far have we come in this story where like 20 years ago, Chris Jericho, I think 21 years ago, he became the undisputed champion in WWE, and like ROH maybe was just starting at that point, but like I think back to his last world title run, which might have been like or one of his world title runs was like 2008, 2009. He had another that was in 2010, and like Tyler Black, aka like the former Seth Rollins, was champ at one of those points. And we also had like Nigel McGuinness as world champ in ROH at the same time as Chris Jericho being champ in WWE. And so, I mean, like, this is a great story. I love that they're pushing this. I love that they're actually bringing in like actual ROH people. Like Jerry Lynn took a pile driver, I believe. He was world champ at one point. We saw Dalton Castle, Colt Cabana. Like, this is just cool though that this is on like a mainstream wrestling show, that they're talking about ROH so much, and like hopefully it's helping build the brand. Honestly, I'll also say, like, I wish that we had more Mercedes Martinez here. That's a whole other note, but I love her, and I love that she is still like in the ROH mix. So anything that's good for ROH and good for Mercedes is good for me.
Yeah, she is the women's world champion and not featured on this card at all. No. So, yeah, I think I'm just gonna officially go with Bryan Danielson, just because, even though I think for me it's him and Chris Jericho 1 and 2. I'm fine with both of them winning. I think Claudio just lost the belt, even though he had just won it. Well. So maybe go with Bryan Danielson instead. The AEW Trios Championship. Okay, guys. All right. So Death Triangle are the current champions, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, we find out that they're facing the Elite, but the Elite haven't been on TV since the debacle of the media scrum at All Out. Doesn't matter because people are still excited. Right. Like,
you're right.
It doesn't matter. And I think Death Triangle are like doing a great job of selling it one-sidedly, like them basically being like, bring them on. So we've seen like a version of the Young Bucks versus Penta. Like, it, I mean, duh, it's gonna be like a great match. I think it's gonna be very exciting just because all of the rumors of the Elite wanting to leave or not being satisfied, and where they deleted, they had like the Thanos snap promo type build. Either way, it's gonna be a great match. The Trios Championship is still like fairly new. Do you put it on the Elite though, when Death Triangle have been doing such a great job with the belts? That's the hard part. But then again, I think I would go with the Elite here, just because you can still build on the feud. The lucky thing about it is they haven't been there. So if a title change happens here at Full Gear, you can still there's still enough meat left on the bone to kind of keep it going for a little bit. But also, like I said, these teams have lots of history with each other. But then it's like, who cares? Because it's like the New Day and the Usos. If you're gonna put these teams together, I'm gonna watch. So I think I'm gonna go with the Elite win, and maybe we get another prolonged feud between Death Triangle and the Elite. Lo, what do you think?
You would not bring the Elite back in this position to lose, in my opinion. They've built them up too much with these promos of them supposedly disappearing, and now having them reappear to enter this match. We have not seen them in months. I think it would almost be stupid to not have them win. The fans have been waiting for them. I think obviously we know their positions in the company, but a lot of people are very invested after the press conference and what happened. And from what we've heard, it really did seem like they were attacked. And we know the different stories and stuff like that, and we've kind of just been waiting because a lot of people felt like they did not deserve to be punished because they were simply defending themselves. But I see them picking up the win here, and I see them kind of picking it up as, well, did you miss us? We had these titles, we got them relinquished, like we're here to finish the story that we started. And it makes the most sense here. And I think it would get a huge crowd pop if they come back and they win. I think, like you mentioned, Death Triangle has been doing a really great job, but
Great job.
I think it has to be the Elite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that, and I guess my only question for both of you, maybe like for you, Lo, is this championship being on the line. Like, I sort of just feel like I wish the trios championship wasn't on the line for their return match, just because it feels like, okay, like you were keeping the belts warm, now we're gonna come back and take what's ours, which like I think is okay, but I mean, I would like to see maybe like the follow-up match, like they come back, they win that match, the trios match against Death Triangle, and then they have another match maybe, but maybe I'm just like too sensitive to it.
No, I think you also have to think about like Toni kind of screwed everything up, right? He let Punk sit up there and say all of that stuff. Like you have to think, what type of restrictions or boundaries were put in place to have them come back. Like they might have said, we will not come back unless we are in the title picture immediately, because you relinquished these titles off of us and we were not in the wrong. So that might also be in play here as well. And Toni could just feel guilty at the end of the day that he let this man get up there and talk about these people and put them in a position where, they weren't wrestling for months. It could be something like that.
True.
So
and then he splits.
Yeah, we don't know.
Possibly. Yeah. So that's a great point, Lo. Stripped of the belts.
I mean, look at MJF too. We heard the voicemail at All Out.
Yeah.
The way he, demanded that he be paid more and get his title shot. Like it could have been the same thing with this. And it might not be as extreme as, having a voicemail played, but you almost lost damn near your whole foundation of your company because of, this legend that you brought in, to get some more eyes on the company. And he completely just went apeshit on a press conference.
Destabilized your locker room. Very true. Very true. Yeah. I agree. I think no matter what, like, I think they win the titles back. And I still think, like Matt said, you just get a follow-up. You just get more follow-up feud. And we'll see what happens from there. I think just people are just going to be glad that the Elite are back. Full stop. Like they're just going to be glad that they're back on the TVs. And, with their titles that they were forced to hand over. So I think we don't got to really worry about what's to come. We'll just take what we can get right now, and it'll be very interesting. I hope they have like a really cool entrance. I hope like they have cool matching gear and all that stuff. And like I said, we know it's going to be a good match. It's like, come on. Like it's going to be a good match. It might be the show stealer. We'll see.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe match of
card.
the night. Maybe match of the night.
Yeah, I mean, truly stacked card here. So we still got a few more matches to go. So before we move on, let's just take another quick break. We'll be back to talk about the women's TBS championship match. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. This is the part where we talk about the storyline that I've been very closely following. We've been closely following here on the Wrestling RHAPup. The champion, Jade Cargill, versus the native beast, Nyla Rose, for the TBS championship match. I am so excited about this match. Like, I love it. It's like two of my two favorite women in AEW fighting. So much on the line. The belt is on the line. Jade's streak is on the line. I'm sorry. For me, this is one of the only times where I'm like, is her streak in trouble? Like, this is one of the, honestly, it is. It's one of them. No disrespect to the other 41 women who came before her, but this is the one where I'm like, will we see the 41 and 1? And I think it's so plausible. And I love this storyline so much because it has all of the things that I'd say that I love in wrestling. It's a level of comedy that doesn't feel too overdone or too forced. I love when characters like Nyla Rose, who initially is just the brooding, like the menacing heel, gets to finally show some charisma and be funny and be a dick, really just be a complete bitch and just like be so funny about it and just rub it into Jade, even though again we're not going to talk about the dynamics here too much, but it kind of feels like they're both heels. Like I don't know what's happening here, but I just love when people get to show charisma. They don't have to just stand there and let their manager talk. You know, she doesn't have to rely on Vicky to be annoying, because they both can be annoying. And stealing the championship, I talked about it like when we talked about when Sasha stole Asuka's belt a few years ago. Like, it's such a great way to keep the belt on the current champion, but also see the reaction that people have for the person who stole the belt. You get a few weeks to kind of decide, like, do we want to pull the trigger and actually give this person the belt, or do we want to put it back on the champion? And then this person kind of got a small run. Like Nyla's basically had a run with the belt.
That's a good
I mean, she's had it for like weeks now. She's calling herself the TBS champion. I love how the commentators keep putting over like she's calling herself, like it's not us. Like Jade is still the champion, but Nyla is calling herself the champion, and she's going like full single white female, stealing Jade's car, stealing her ring moves. It's just it's perfect for me. And then on top of that, you got the flip side where Jade is like just pissed. Like Jade is just like, Jade said, I'm gonna sit in this ring until I get my belt back. Jade is over here pump kicking security guards heads off.
Rude.
For a minute there, I thought she was gonna do something to Kiera Hogan, who didn't get her belt back. Like it kind of feels like it's sowing a little bit of dissension within the baddies. I love the storyline. All right, I'm sorry, I'm done. Lo, am I being too extra here?
I think Nyla is the only person that, in my opinion, that we've seen so far that is actually a threat to Jade. I think we've seen so many different competitors, but at the end of the day, there's always been a doubt in my mind that they can't step up to the plate with her. And I think this time around, Nyla has just been different about, you know, we've seen her in the women's title picture, obviously,
right.
but we haven't really seen her with this title. And I think the way that they've gone about it has just been really fun and interesting, rather than just a regular, like, I'm going to take your title at the next pay-per-view.
Yes.
It's added, you know, it's added something that we don't normally see. And, like I said, I think Nyla is probably the one to take the title. And I said that probably like a couple months ago, that it was either going to be Nyla or they would probably bring someone else in. I thought maybe it would have been, I'm thinking Ember Moon. I'm thinking of her WWE name.
Athena.
Yeah. I thought it maybe would have been Athena, because it really did seem like they were going back and forth. But, you know, obviously that ship has sailed. But at this point, I think Nyla really is the only one, unless they bring in another signing. But I don't see that happening right now. I know people are saying it might be Sasha Banks, but I don't see that happening. I think it would be Nyla. So, you know, they could create another record. Nyla would be the only woman that has held both titles at this point.
Ooh, I love that. I agree. I agree. Matt, how about you?
Look, I just have to say, I love Nyla Rose. Like, I'm a fan of Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose is also like a DC. She's a DC person. So shout woo, 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 woo. Nyla, let's get some happy hour drinks. Let's go to brunch. Like, hit us up. Hit us up. But, and I also will say, I'm wearing a shirt, my Beast shirt right now, which has nothing to do with Nyla Rose. But I gotta say, nobody messes with Jade Cargill. And I will let you both know that I was in Target the other day. I was in Target and I was like, let me just like go over to like this little section and see what they have from like the pro wrestling. They have a little pro wrestling section with some figures. I've never bought a pro wrestling figure until now, because I saw a Jade act. I will never open it. It will stay in. It will stay in the box. Stay in the box. It will be signed when I'm in the baddie section finally. So I need Jade to keep that championship and keep the baddie section strong. Just for my own sanity and health. But I like this feud so much. I like that it's
Mhm.
fun and it's like a little comical, but not too comical, to your point,
Right.
Mari. And I just wish that this feud and these two got more credit, because
Mhm.
I do think that I don't know. It's like it's just they just deserve so much more with this. Jade has done such a good job with everything, and I get that she's learning along the way and growing as a wrestler in the ring. But I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like they're being a little bit overshadowed by Saraya and Britt Baker,
100%.
which I
Mhm.
mean, I know, that is a big match, but at the same time, you have someone whose winning streak is on the line, and
Mhm.
they've been doing a really great job in the storyline, but it doesn't seem like it's as hyped up as, Saraya coming back to wrestling, being cleared, and her first competitor being a former AEW Women's Champion.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. First off, where's mine, Matt? Did you buy me a Jade
I mean, I
Cargill?
could go like literally, it's a block away.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
hook
All
you up.
right,
Don't
thank you.
worry.
Um,
Um,
and second, yeah, whew, I love this match. I love the storyline, and I agree. Like they have literally, to me, been carrying Rampage because I have been like watching Rampage in and out because of their feud. So much so that they're on Dynamite tonight. Like, like I
mm,
gotta turn it down.
mm,
There's too much stuff on Wednesday that I have to watch. So I
yeah.
always got to like catch up on Dynamite. So I love like watching them on Rampage and like holding that brand up. I feel like so. I mean, it's true. It's so much on the line. It's the streak, it's the belt. It's like, do you complete it? Do you let Nyla Rose win? Do you take the belt off of Jade? This, like Lo said, Nyla is the most uh believable
Right.
contender that Jade has had in basically the whole year. So do you just pull a trigger? Do you finally I think it's hard because I think if you finally pull the trigger, she doesn't have that undefeated streak weighing her down. You open up more storylines when she doesn't have to adhere to that streak. Um it's kind of like, with Asuka, like Asuka's streak and how it eventually kind of held her down, and then on the flip side, then
Oh,
she started losing a lot. But like it's hard because I love Jade as champion. I love what Nyla's been doing with the belt.
uh-oh. Uh-oh. Don't do it, Mari. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I think I have to say they got to put it on Nyla. Like, put it on Nyla. Let's continue the feud. Let Jade like Jade will have to then figure out her character without her undefeated streak, similar to what
That's
Bianca
fair.
did in NXT.
Yep.
Yeah.
So give us another layer, add another layer to that character. Um, see where that goes. Continue the feud.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying Nyla's gonna take it.
it's fair, and I mean, Lo, your point about like who would it be if it's not Nyla, I think is
Honestly,
good.
yeah,
My
that's the
only
biggest
thing,
draw.
And
my
like I
yeah,
also thought it might have been Chris Statlander, but she got injured. Like that was the
Yeah,
main plan as well. So it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's either Nyla or it's Chris. We're not gonna wait. I don't think they're gonna wait that long for Chris to come back. I feel like Nyla
mhm,
would be that person.
yeah.
yep,
My only thing with, well, not my only thing other than the undefeated streak and everything else with Jade is that Jade has kind of been like punked out by Nyla over the last month so many
Yeah.
times, and
yeah,
so I
that's
just,
true.
in a weird way, I feel like she needs this win. As a
Mhm,
dominant win, I just
Mm.
don't know who would take the championship, because I do agree with you. Like, getting away from the undefeated streak would be nice. I don't know if that's at like the 50 win mark or some big milestone, but
mhm,
I agree with you. Like, she does need more dimensions to her character. I just don't. I have to think about that more. Like, who will it be? But Nyla's already gotten over, like, in doing this feud, at least in my opinion, and
yeah,
so I think that that's a big win, and it's just honestly great to see Nyla like in a featured feud spot, just because I think it's been way too long. It's been way too long since she's been there.
yeah. I completely agree with that. Other than that, I think it's going to be a really, really cool match, and I can definitely see no matter who wins this match, there's definitely not being a clean finish. Like there are going to be too many people on the
Yeah.
outside of the ring
Totally.
for this to be a clean finish. And
Yeah.
if you get the dirty finish, then of course like the feud can continue. So
Mhm.
and you can kind of you can kind of protect both parties there too. So that is yeah, I'm just saying that now. That's the match that I think I'm looking the most forward to. I'm like quick scroll.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. That is the one.
Interesting.
Yeah. So next up, Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Luchasaurus in a steel cage match. Woo! A feud that's like the culmination of like months and months of like build up. Our boy Luchasaurus, aka Austin from Big Brother 17, with Christian Cage in his corner. Do we know, Lo? Do you know is Christian Cage's injury, is that a work or is that
No,
like?
it's real.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Jungle Boy here, like it's rough because you know the Jurassic Express, right? Like what's their name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a great team. Like people love them. Like such an over team. Watching them like overcome and struggle and trying to get the belts and all of that. It was such a great storyline. And then to have Luchasaurus like Luchasaurus and Christian like turn on Jungle Boy, it's like hard to watch because it's like no, but then I feel like it's a necessity. Like if Jungle Boy is going to prove that he is one of the 4 pillars, he needs to strike out on his own, and he has all of the tools. Like I really like his theme song. Like is that a real song? Like so half these songs I'm like, are these real songs?
I think that's a real song.
Yeah, it is, right? Okay, that's what I thought.
Sounds like it. I don't know.
It sounds like it. Like they get so close. They're really good at getting like really, really close to like real songs or just having the real songs. I can never tell. But anyways, like I love his whole package. I didn't realize how soothing his voice was. That's so random. But like I think
it's important.
You forget, like, yeah. But like Jungle Boy like has it all. And I think fortunately for him, it's time for him to like really step out there on his own, go that singles route. And this is the perfect way to end it with Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus still has Christian to talk for him. Christian's injured. He can still like manage Luchasaurus. This steel cage match is going to be like redonkulous. The power, I love a good like power base versus like a flippy flopper, right? Like a flippy flopper. So and then with all of the history too, when Jungle Boy said like you wasted 3 years of my life, I was like, oh, I felt that. So
oh my gosh,
I know. I think this is like the crowning. It is a little dramatic, but it's like it's the coordination, it's the push forward, it's the leave the nest. And I think Jungle Boy definitely wins here. And I hope that I wonder if they play up a little bit more of the emotion of it, but they don't have to because Luchasaurus, he's a wrestling dinosaur. It's fine. It's fine if they don't. But I think this was a very successful tag team, split. Because when you see stuff like this happen all the time, sometimes you get desensitized because we're always waiting for every tag team to turn on each other. But I think they've done this in a really, really good way. Lo, what are your feelings on Jungle Boy versus Luchasaurus?
I definitely think it's like a David versus Goliath match, but I hope this is the last one of this variation because I thought it would be the last one when we were going to see Christian versus Jungle Boy. I thought that was it. And, obviously with the addition of Luchasaurus, like it has extended it, but I feel like at this point, what's left, right? That's why it's almost like, okay, after this match, I think we need to kind of move forward. I actually do think that Jungle Boy is going to win. And the reason why I think that is because just looking at how they're pushing him outside of the company makes me think that they're trying to elevate him to a bigger star. So if you look at the Comic-Cons, it's usually him. It's usually Britt Baker. So they have him going to stuff like this. And it makes me think that they want to elevate him to be, a huge mid-card star. They recently incorporated his whole name into his ring name rather than just Jungle Boy. It's Jungle Boy Jack Perry now. So that makes me think that they're looking at, different avenues for him to go down, maybe get involved in some stuff other than Comic-Con outside of the wrestling ring. And, you want someone that's dominant in that type of position. You don't want someone that's losing every match to be, doing autograph signings at a Comic-Con or starring in a movie. So I think this is kind of Jungle Boy's time to win this match and kind of proceed forward with his career and see, what's next. Is it a title? Is it, just having a strong feud with someone to build up his name and his reputation more? So I think it's going to be Jungle Boy.
I agree. I love that. Matt?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I think of Jungle Boy Jack Perry, there's only one word that comes to mind, and it's potential. Like he's so talented, but there's so much more that they could do with him. So I am all aboard the JP train. Like that needs to be a thing. Let's put it on a shirt. But like you just feel for him, like seeing him being choke slammed through a chair, seeing him being attacked by Christian when Christian turned on him earlier this year. All of it is so emotional, even when we haven't really I think it's just something about him where I don't necessarily feel that they've had to go out of their way to build an emotional connection with him, if that makes sense. Like there's something about him that I think people could gravitate to a little bit. And I mean, just like the real life stuff of Christian bringing up his mother and father and just like making it personal. And it's like, I like him. I want to see Jungle Boy actually evolving into that pillar of AEW because in name he's been one of those pillars, but I just don't feel like we've seen it, especially in this I'll say in this like half of AEW's history when we have gotten these big stars who've come in and taken up more of the TV time. It would be great to see Jungle Boy among those big stars, and I could even see him like against MJF as world champion. Like let's go back to that but I'm excited for this for this match, kind of like you said, Mari, the big one, the big one versus the little one. We like that.
Flippy floppy. Yes, exactly. And he's still young. He's 25, just like the other ones. So it's just kind of like, let's start it. Let's get this train rolling. Let's strap the rocket to him,
I didn't realize he was. I mean, I guess that's not. Never mind. That's what happens when you're 30. You're like, what? He's so young. He's 25. What? But I guess that makes sense. Good for him and his young bones.
Yeah, AEW. That is one thing that they are like. They have such a plethora of young stars. That's so good. That should lay the foundation for them for years. Of course. All right. So let's move on to the third and final women's match on the card. Saraya versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. So like we said, I mean, this has gotten top billing. It's been interwoven with some of the other women's like matches and stuff like that. It seems like it's like a blood feud, but also like Britt's like most recent promo was kind of like also like really nice, like oh yeah. So I don't know. I get why it's important. I get why it's like such a big match. It's like, again, Britt Baker is right. She is the face of this company. Like if anybody thinks of AEW and they think about who the women's face is, it's Britt Baker. And Saraya coming in and just like, I get what Britt's saying. It's kind of like, oh, you're just going to waltz in here and you think you're going to like change the culture for AEW? You think you're going to be the person to put AEW on the map? I've been here type deal. So, I'm looking forward to it as much as, like Matt said, like previously, I'm looking forward to it as much as I was looking forward to Daniel Bryan's first matches back and Edge's first matches back. Like, I am just going to probably be looking through my hands the whole entire time.
Yeah.
Trying not to wince and just hope everything goes good. Like Britt is, she's a very safe worker. So I'm just, I just want to see where it's just like Bayley too. When Bayley came back too, it's just like, you just never know what you're going to get when people come off these long injuries and you got to see like, are they rusty? Will she dive right into it? What are we going to get? So I'm definitely interested to see how the match progresses. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll just say to that point, I was just listening to or watching an interview with Saraya just yesterday, and she was talking about, you know, the process of being cleared and going to the different doctors and you know, like that kind of thing. Hearing that, is it gives you more confidence, but
Oh, that's great.
also, I mean, she was talking about how, like, you know, like you know, my thing used to be taking a lot of neck bumps, and I'm not going to do that. And so I'm not expecting her to like it'll be very interesting to see what the match is like how much
Yeah.
is she bumping versus not bumping. Like she referenced in that interview, um staying on her feet oftentimes, so in the past. And so I wonder if it's going to feel like, I wonder if it's going to be what everyone wants and expects it to be. But also the other thing, and this is where, like, I get that there's a lot around her that's like that people criticize, and I feel for her for that level of criticism. And you know what, good for her that Twitter might not be a thing, just because I don't think it's ever been great to her. But at the same time, you know, I don't know, I just worry, like I'm not excited to watch this
Right.
match in real time. And this is part of where I'm like, okay, like I have to watch this, let's watch this after it actually airs, like making sure that everything goes well, just because this is, like, to your point, Mari, watching it through my hands. But she has been training, right? So things have been going well in terms of bumping and other stuff so far. So I just have to remember to breathe. And I'm not
What do
even
you
in the
think?
match. Like, what? I'm nervous. Yeah. Lo, what do you think?
Again, I think this is a type of situation kind of like the Elite. Like, you don't have someone come in to lose. So I don't see her
Mm,
losing. I just don't see how the match is going to go. Like,
true.
I don't know if there's going to be involvement from like Rebel or, you know, what is going to happen, but I don't see her losing the match. Do I think the match is going to be short? Yes, I don't see it going that long. I see, you know,
Mhm.
I think you have to look at it just like you said. You know, this
Mhm.
is a match where she's coming off this injury that she's had for years.
Yep.
And you can't just work her to the point where, okay, we're going to give her a 20-30 minute match. Like,
Right.
No.
you sure about that? I think maybe 15 minutes max, maybe less
Max.
than that.
Mhm.
Because you know, you just
Yeah.
you don't know how she's going to be, right? Yes, she
Mhm.
trains, but has she done a full match with Britt Baker? Probably not.
Mhm.
So
So,
I think it's going to be a very short match. I don't see Britt winning, but I see Britt coming back to try and challenge her again, and then maybe they have a longer match. But
yeah.
with how long this pay-per-view is as well, I don't see it going past like 15, maybe 20
That's
minutes.
true.
What,
Yeah, a
you know,
lot of matches on this card. So
yeah, and it's interesting too, because to that point, like going back to 2017, which was the last time that she wrestled. I'm guessing it was December 2017 versus like January 2018, or maybe it was, I don't know
yeah.
what the timing was. But it's interesting because like has she, look, I know that she could do many things. She's a almost 20-year veteran of the wrestling ring. I don't have questions about that. But in WWE, what was the longest match we ever saw from Paige, or just like from Saraya? Just thinking of how the women were booked, you know, for years before that. And I'm actually curious now what her longest match was, because I kind of want to go back and watch it before watching this show. But like a 15-minute match, a 10-minute match. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a 10-minute match from her. But I like once she settles in, and once we get past the initial bump shock of watching her, I
Mhm.
am gonna be like very invested in what this run looks like, and seeing like what she actually does when she gets comfortable with bumping and everything else, because she doesn't have the same restrictions that she had in WWE, which is like the one beautiful silver lining of
But is
this.
that good or bad though?
I mean, I'm not saying either way, and I think it
Mhm.
comes down to like kind of where's her head, and is it in, you know, a place that's conducive to really great wrestling and like great just decisions in that sense, or is it not? And so, but I want like what's best for her, and just kind of, it's always been sad to not see her in the best place, and so I just worry.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Lo. I agree with both of you. I think Saraya wins here. How? I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think she wins. You don't have this big of a debut and then don't give her the win.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, let's talk about Lowe's favorite subject. We have the TNT Championship match where Wardlow, the current champion, aka Wardaddy, versus Samoa Joe versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Lo, can you tell us about this?
Sure. Okay. Wardlow won the TNT Championship
Yes.
recently.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of complaints online about his booking. It seemed
Yeah.
like immediately after he won the championship, he was involved with FTR as a
Mm-hmm.
trio, and no one really understood that, and I didn't either. But
Mm.
when there's a will, there's a Wardlow, right? Um, so I kind of just watched along, and then they put him with Samoa Joe as War Joe, and it was just a lot of tag team action. Didn't really understand
Mhm.
it, but they were pushing Wardlow or War Joe for a while, and just recently Powerhouse Hobbs got involved here. Powerhouse Hobbs most recently was involved in a feud with Ricky Starks, who was his former
Right.
Team Taz member or team member. But now I guess he's going after Wardlow, which makes sense. We like big meaty men bumping meat, but
Yes, we do.
we did not expect Samoa Joe, or I didn't expect Samoa Joe
Yes.
to get so offended. The thing that was like the ticking time bomb, the last straw, was when Wardlow said he was taking all the championships in AEW, which obviously ROH falls under AEW now. Samoa Joe
Mhm.
holds one of the ROH championships, and Samoa Joe got pissed and hit Wardlow from the back. And obviously that's good news for Hobbs because Hobbs didn't have to do anything. I don't understand this
Right.
because Samoa Joe already has a title, right? And it's
Mhm.
like now we're fighting for Wardlow's title. So are we going to put two titles on him? I don't think so. So it leaves you wondering, is it either going to be Hobbs or is it going to be Wardlow? Obviously, I want to see Wardlow hold the title, but
Mhm.
in my opinion, I feel like this really hasn't been the best. That's a wonderful picture. This really hasn't been, the best run for him. I
Run,
feel
yeah.
like, we've had some great matches. I think the best match that I can think of off the top of my head was the Brian Cage match.
Mm.
And they worked really well together. And we've seen that Wardlow, his agility, he is able to be a high flyer, but he's also a big guy. The
Mhm.
Powerbomb Symphony is a hit that sticks like grits. But at this point, what do, right? Who are
Yeah.
you going to have Wardlow up against if he retains? But then at the
Mm.
same time, if Hobbs wins it,
Mm.
who is Hobbs' next opponent? Like I said, I don't see Samoa Joe winning the title at
Mm.
all. I see it either
Yeah.
being Hobbs or Wardlow, but I don't know what's next after this for them.
So
Yeah.
great point because there's a lot of belts. There's a lot of belts on the line here. There's a lot of people in other storylines. Whew. So yeah, I completely agree. I was like, we're building to a Hobbs and Wardlow match, and then all of a sudden, like Samoa Joe is thrown in there like the week before, like a few days before. I mean, Joe's promo was really good and really fiery. Like, I struck first because I'm not gonna wait for him to strike at me. It's like,
Right.
okay, I guess. Like, sure.
Yeah.
It almost makes you wonder if like they weren't confident in like a Wardlow Powerhouse Hobbs match, like just the two of them, like I don't know, drawing. I don't know, or maybe they just wanted they
I mean, they don't have to worry about the female demo watching it.
exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like I'm tuning in for Wardlow. Am I tuning in for Powerhouse Hobbs? And it's like,
I mean, I think he just needs more character development. I
yeah,
think right
Mhm.
now, like, we know a little bit about him and we've known about him because of Team Taz, but ever
right.
since his matches with Ricky, like, it's kind of been radio silent. So when he
Right.
was added, it
Mhm.
was like, okay, this is an interesting aspect, but like, you haven't built him up enough for us to be like, could this actually happen? I mean, he's a big guy. He works well in the ring. He has a very clean what does he do? A very clean buster, one of the best spine
Mhm.
busters I've seen, but where's that personality at? Like we need to
Exactly.
see more of that.
Exactly. So, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like they're putting Samoa Joe in here to kind of like add a little seasoning to the feud. but it feels weird. It feels like this doesn't make much sense. And like you said, like I maybe this just means Wardlow retains, and then they can continue his feud with Powerhouse. Maybe. Like it just feels a little weird. It feels a little shoehorned in here. What do you think, Matt?
Well, two things. One, the first thing that just crossed through my mind is like, what is Wardlow's record in AEW? Just because I know AEW is big on tracking that.
Yeah.
I know he has a pretty solid record, but I like thinking about this match just to kind of get to the point. I feel like Joe being in this match and this being a triple threat match, is a good excuse for Hobbs to get the win. Like some shenanigans could go down between Joe and Wardlow. Hobbs could get the win and get the championship. I do agree he needs the character development. I also just don't like I'm not a fan of him as a performer. I was gonna say I'm not the biggest fan of him as a performer, but like that would be sugarcoating it. So, and by the way, I do still think of everything that we talked about last December, Mari, about all the performers, and so there's a lot there. But anyway, I feel like Hobbs will walk out with this championship because I don't really understand why this match is happening if not for that to happen. And I would love it, but
I think it would be interesting too, because they are going back to like Northern California area in January. I think it's January, it might be March. And that's where he's from. He is, on the poster front and center. Which I kind of thought was interesting. I mean, I know that they've gone to California before, but I guess they haven't gone to that part of California. But again, like we mentioned with one of the other matches, these matches are like so far along. The UK match, which we mentioned with Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm, like it's so far away. So it's like if you put the title on him right now in November and you're waiting for him to defend in his hometown as a champ in March, what are you doing until then?
In between, yeah. But Matt, you just like turn the light switch on for me here, because if Joe somehow costs Wardlow his title, Hobbs walks away with Wardaddy's TNT championship, then that frees up Wardaddy to come after Samoa Joe's ROH title. And it kind of moves the sticks along where Wardlow is slowly making his way to all of the titles. So now that you mention that kind of sounds pretty good to me.
And then maybe we'll get Hobbs and Ricky Starks again together at some point. Like maybe we're gonna get Ricky winning this eliminator tournament, but not the World Championship, and then kind of. I mean, that's an interesting progression, but I could see the world where he's challenging Hobbs for the championship.
For the TNT.
So, I mean, like, I think that's how you get to March, like, it would just going back to that well of like Starks and Hobbs could be the way that they're like, oh, look, it's February. Okay, now it's March. Like, okay, we're here, and he steals the championship somehow. So, I mean, honestly, let's hope that like whatever happens that we come out with some idea of like redeeming qualities that Hobbs has. And you know what? Well, maybe it will be like Hobbs Daddy. You know, you could get a shirt.
Oh God,
like 1-800 Hobbs Daddy.
Oh, I'm not making that.
Yes, I think Matt has actually convinced me. I think I'm gonna go with like Hobbs winning the championship here, and then like springboarding the Joe and Wardaddy feud.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense. That makes sense in my fantasy. Even though I think Wardlow should keep the belt, but that'd be kind of like a small swerve. All right, that's it for the highlights of the week in wrestling at AEW specifically. Again, you can check out. We have plenty of clips here to get you caught up on AEW in anticipation for Full Gear. Check out our handy playlist either in your show notes or the YouTube description. We want to thank Lo from the Wrestling Winedown for being here. Thank you so much, Lo. We truly love having you every single time. Every single time. Can you tell the people where to find you? Plug yourself.
Sure. So you can listen to the Wrestling Winedown podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. We are on Twitter until it shuts down at WWDCAST. We're on Facebook and Instagram under the same username, as well as TikTok at WWDCAST. We have merch, 1-800-WARDADDY. That was us. We have a Powerbomb Symphony. We have some other stuff coming up as well. That website is shop.wrestlingwinedownlv.com.
Yes, and big shout out to you. I just got, because I've seen Mari with her shirt constantly, so I just got my little mug, my little sticker of the rebranded, the new version. So, big fan of that. I need to get my hands on this merch so that I don't need to drink out of this off-brand wine glass right now.
Yes, Matt, can you tell the people where to find you?
Good question. You could find me on whatever social media platforms you're using, except for like TikTok and things. I'm not cool enough like that. But at Matt Scott GW on the platforms, and it is, I think, a pretty calm podcasting season. But you could check out my show Pod Friends, interviewing other podcasters and people in this Rob Has a Podcast universe, including some folks from the show coming back for another season, probably in January to start us out. So you could find out more about that at robhasawebsite.com/podfriendsfeed. And yeah, that's like the big thing I have going on. And outside of that, I would also just plug like things I have going on for work. Just this week, November 15th, actually launched this series for work. I lead this storytelling program at a Climate Solutions nonprofit, and just launched this cool series of interviews with a lot of great people, mostly people of color living in Atlanta, working on climate solutions, and having really powerful conversations about like things that aren't climate, like race and sexuality and gender and all the things. So you could check that out at drawdown.org/neighborhood. Very proud of that. Very tired from that. Looking forward to rest. But beyond that, Mari, where could the people find you?
Well, me, Latanya Starks, and Chappelle just wrapped up our coverage of the 4th and final season of Atlanta. Earn and the gang are officially gone. They rode off into the sunset, but you can listen to both me, Latanya, and Chappelle, all of us, talk about the 4th and final season by going to postshowrecaps.com/Atlanta. Even if you're still watching, if you're catching up, I know Matt is still catching up, you can go back and listen. It'll always be there. We covered season 3 and season 4 this year. We had so much fun breaking down such an Afro surreal show that had us thinking like every week. So definitely go check it out. It's like one of my favorite podcasts that I've done. Yes,
by the
Matt.
way, side note, Mari, I've caught up. So now I just listened to episode 1 of the 3rd season. So now I have to like start listening to the podcast after every episode. So I am not fully caught up, but I'm excited. Yes. And yeah, I can't recommend just watching Atlanta enough. And there's a lot of Atlanta content this week. We should get a sponsorship from the city.
Yes. And you're gonna need it because season 3 is wild. So definitely listen to our coverage of it, because we had to make change. We had to make sense into like all of that stuff. Yeah, but also every Tuesday, me and Sarah Carradine are bringing True Crime Tuesdays to RHAP with our podcast Crime Scene. That's Crime SCEN, where each week we watch a different true crime property, docuseries, documentary, and we rate it and we give our opinions on if you should watch it too. This week we just dropped the Charlie Cullen double feature, where we watch both The Good Nurse and Capturing the Killer Nurse on Netflix, 2 exceptional properties. Basically a feature film starring Jessica Chastain and Eddie Redmayne playing the titular character. Charlie Cullen is a serial killer nurse, a male nurse who has admitted to killing at least 29 patients, may have killed upwards to 400 people in his 16-year career.
Dear.
Yes. And then it also had a documentary which featured the real people who helped capture him. Very good. Like I always suggest watching both of them. Go hear our opinions by going to Rob has a website.com/crime feed to subscribe to the Crime Scene podcast. Please go subscribe, go rate, go review. This week we are covering I Am Vanessa Guillen on Netflix, a powerful, powerful documentary that just dropped. It literally just dropped on Netflix on Thursday. So you can check that out and then check out our review about it. But whatever you do, go subscribe to Crime Scene, and then you can follow us on Twitter, as long as it's still standing, at Crime Scene RHAP. That's at Crime SEEN RHAP. We're also on TikTok at crime.scene, at crime.SEEN. So that is everything that I have going on. Of course, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe here. Yes, Matt.
Mari, you didn't plug your social media.
Oh, I always, yes.
Your own, because I remember the
last two times. I go through all of my like podcast plugs and then complete. Well, again, it might not be here by the time everybody's listening.
Sure.
You can find me on Twitter at Mari Talks Too Much. That's 2, like the number 2 on Twitter. As long as it's still standing, I'll be there. I'll watch it go down in flames. I'm there to the bitter end, baby. So go follow me there. Please go subscribe to the Wrestling RHAPup podcast if you haven't already done so. Rob has a website.com/wrestling feed. Go follow us on Twitter at Wrestling RHAPup on Twitter. Thank you to Lo one more time from me and Matt. Remember, wrestling is for everybody, but not all wrestling is for everyone. Goodbye.
Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party. Mula Ric Flair, showing out like Bianca Belair, Best podcast, flush it in the air, Roman Reigns and we win it, don't care, No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party.